I think my favourite part of the design process is the very beginning and working out the room layouts. I love that moment with a pencil, all the things that are possible. I'm Rita Konig. I'm an interior designer, and we're in my flat in London where I live with my daughter Margot and my rather naughty dog Eddie. So I found this flat when I moved back from New York. It is quite amazing that I've stayed here this long. This flat now has gone through 3 renovations. But at each stage of renovation, I have looked elsewhere. In the end, it made sense to do this because there wasn't anything kind of great. But there was also so much about this flat that I really loved. I love the high ceilings. I love my own entrance. I love coming through a garden. Every window you look out of, you look at green. It's triple aspect. It has this lovely west light, and it has these big grand rooms. And I found it very hard to find that again. The middle renovation, I just basically added on to the space. And there are problems that arise from tacking something on to something that exists. That was why this time I was like, we need to just throw the whole thing up in the air and start again, which was great. I would describe my home now as quite grown up. I did the redecoration all at once, and this was a bed I'd hankered after, having seen them in David Hicks rooms and then Vig Rennie rooms and sort of Billy Baldwin rooms, and all of those fabulous decorators used them, and it was quite an indulgence actually. There's a lot of fabric in here. The thing with decorating is that it's not just fabrics alone. I think it's so much in decorating is the change in space, how you're going to live there, what's going to go on. And I think what I was trying to convey was a feeling of a place being collected rather than being decorated and propped out. I really hate propping. I like possessions, not props. You know, you've got to accept your DNA in a room and in your taste. And there's the things you've inherited, and there are the things you bought when maybe you didn't have so much money, but they kind of have an imprint on them, and they always make the difference between it being nice and it being really good. So when I first moved here, I did these gallery walls where I just plastered the walls with pictures. Then when I came to redo it this time, I really wanted something different. And this is a north-facing room, so I wanted it to have that library-ish warm feeling. And I feel like the palette now is a bit smokier. I feel like this one feels like a cigar, this brown, which I love. When renovating this time, I also renovated the garden. I did the garden with Butter Wakefield, who's a wonderful garden designer in England. So we had paving, but where the grass had been, the paving was laid with big gaps in between, so that it was like those terraces in English country houses where you're sitting outside and there's daisies and Alchemilla mollis and all sorts of things coming up between the paving stones, so that it still has that very soft feeling. And Butter really wanted me to have this trellis, and I was like, it looks frightfully sort of smart and grand, and it's not really a very grand neighbourhood. In the end, she was right. It was funny to be the one being dragged rather than to be the dragger. I think the influence for me of decorating was obviously being brought up by my mother, who's Nina Campbell, and I loved it. And then now I'm so influenced, I'm always looking at old rooms, mostly for the furniture layouts, actually, more than the decorating. It's so hard, actually, my favourite room, because I love my little study, which is this room that I built in the old bin area that I purchased when I purchased the sort of garden. And it's this 10 by 7 room. And then it's all fabriced out in one of my new Schumacher fabrics, this paisley, and it's so sweet. And the desk, tiny little French mid-century desk I bought that looks out down the garden, and it's got a lovely view and it's quiet, and that's really nice. This was originally my dressing room. It was a little bit different. I moved the door a bit and it's changed a little bit, but I sort of gained this amazing space because now I thought this was going to really be sort of coats and shoes and boots, but these shelves have just been so good for linen and extra plates and decanters and all these things that I didn't have space for in my kitchen. Apart from the fact that it was so expensive to make this cupboards and cabinetry, it's so much softer like this. The kitchen's been such a gain. This big room where everybody gathers. My fridge is no longer in the corner under a counter with a chair in the way trying to find something in it to eat. It just works like a proper house. This idea that everything needs a bit of ugly, I came across once when I was at a friend of mine's house. I was quite young. His parents had this lovely house in the country, certainly not decorated in the way that I'd been brought up with, very decorated rooms. And I wanted to sort of undo it and work out what it was that made this room so special. And I sort of looked around, and the first thing I laid my eyes on was a sort of slightly cracked old Chinese lamp with a crooked lampshade. And I was like, I guess that's it. I would never buy that lamp, but it's fabulous in here. And I think it's the incidental, very often, that's where the magic lies in a room. This house makes me feel very calm. It makes me feel very happy to be here. It's very nice on a Sunday to come and read the papers and poot around and be here. I mean, that's really what I think your house should deliver, is somewhere that you're happy to be.